The feeling that someone is watching you, even when no one seems to be around, is a deeply unsettling yet strangely familiar sensation. You could be walking down a hallway, sitting alone in a quiet library, or even lying in bed at night, and suddenly you sense it. A presence, an invisible gaze fixed upon you. You turn around to check. Sometimes there really is someone looking at you. Other times there's nothing there, but the feeling lingers. Why does this happen? What is it about the human brain that creates such vivid impressions of being observed? This isn't just a quirky human experience, it's a deeply rooted psychological and neurological phenomenon with a fascinating history in neuroscience and evolutionary biology. Today, we're going to explore the science behind that eerie feeling of being watched. We'll break down how our brains are wired to detect gazes, why this ability evolved in the first place, and what happens when that system goes into overdrive. Let's begin by exploring the neurological basis of gaze detection. At the heart of this ability lies a part of the brain called the superior temporal sulcus, or STS. This structure plays a major role in processing visual social cues, things like facial expressions, body language, and especially the direction of someone's gaze. The STS works in conjunction with other regions such as the amygdala, which processes emotion and threat, and the fusiform face area, which is specialized for recognizing faces. Together, these regions form what scientists often refer to as the social brain. This network enables you to quickly assess whether someone is looking at you, what kind of expression they're wearing, and what their intentions might be. What's truly astonishing is how fast and automatic this process is. You don't consciously think through whether someone is staring at you. Your brain delivers that conclusion before you're even aware of it. Our ability to detect gaze is so sophisticated that we can sense when someone is looking at us even from the periphery of our vision. Researchers have shown that humans can detect direct gaze from surprisingly long distances, up to 30 meters or more, particularly when the observer's face is well lit and facing forward. This is possible in part because of the unique structure of the human eye. Unlike most other animals, humans have a very visible sclera, the white part of the eye. This makes it much easier to detect where someone is looking, giving humans an evolutionary advantage in reading social signals. In evolutionary terms, the ability to detect gaze has been crucial to our survival. Imagine a scenario from early human history. You're out gathering food when you feel that eerie sensation that someone or something is watching you. You look around and spot a predator in the bushes. That momentary feeling may have just saved your life, or consider a social context. You sense someone looking at you in a group setting, and you realize they're preparing to challenge or confront you. Being able to detect that attention early gives you time to respond, either to defend yourself or to de-escalate the situation. From an evolutionary perspective, it was far better to have a system that generated false positives than one that failed to alert you in time. Our ancestors who erred on the side of caution, who assumed they were being watched and took action, were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. That's why modern humans still carry this sensitivity. Even in our technology-saturated, supposedly safe environments, this ancient survival system remains active. But this system isn't perfect. Like all complex biological mechanisms, it sometimes misfires. And that's where things get interesting. The brain is not a passive receiver of information. It's a predictive engine. It constantly scans the environment, forms expectations based on prior experience, and then updates those expectations in real time. When sensory input is ambiguous, when it's too dark, too quiet, or too unfamiliar, your brain fills in the gaps. It uses heuristics, mental shortcuts, to make the best guess it can, and often that guess is, someone is watching me. This leads us to the concept of hyperactive agency detection. This term was coined by cognitive scientists to describe our tendency to assume that ambiguous stimuli have intentional causes, that rustle in the bushes. It's probably not just the wind, it might be a predator. That shape in the corner of the room, it might be a person watching you. Evolution has tuned us to assume the presence of agents, beings with thoughts, goals, and eyes, because the cost of missing a real agent was historically much higher than the cost of a false alarm. Our brains are also incredibly attuned to facial features. Even as infants, we are drawn to faces. We can see this in how babies respond more strongly to stimuli that resemble eyes or faces, even if they are abstract or cartoonish. This tendency continues into adulthood. Researchers have shown that people behave more honestly in environments with images of eyes on the wall, even if those eyes are just simple illustrations. The presence of watching eyes, even fake ones, changes behavior. That's how deeply the idea of being watched is embedded in our subconscious. Let's dig into some of the experimental evidence behind this phenomenon. One classic study involved participants sitting with their backs to a hidden observer. At random intervals, the observer would either look directly at the participant or look away. The participant was asked to indicate whether they felt they were being watched. Amazingly, participants were able to guess with accuracy greater than chance whether someone was looking at them. The margin wasn't huge, but it was statistically significant, enough to suggest that something beyond randomness is at play. How does this work? One explanation is that our brains pick up on incredibly subtle cues, shifts in air pressure, minute sounds, or faint changes in light, signals that we aren't consciously aware of, but that still inform our perception. These microsignals could trigger an unconscious sense of being observed. Now consider the role of mirror neurons. These neurons fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else doing the same thing. They play a critical role in empathy, imitation, and understanding the intentions of others. Some scientists believe that when someone looks at us, our mirror neurons help us simulate that gaze. It's almost as if we're mentally feeling what it's like to look at ourselves through someone else's eyes. This might contribute to that sharp, visceral sensation of being watched, especially in emotionally charged contexts. What happens when this system becomes overactive or maladaptive? In social anxiety disorder, people often feel like they're being constantly scrutinized, even when there's no one paying attention to them. This isn't just a matter of shyness. It's a hyperactive response in the brain's social monitoring system. Functional imaging studies have shown that the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes more active in individuals with social anxiety when they perceive eye contact, even if it's brief or ambiguous. Similarly, individuals with paranoid tendencies or certain psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia often experience persistent and distressing feelings of being watched or followed. These sensations are not based on reality, but the underlying neural systems involved in gaze detection are likely overfiring. The same machinery that helps us navigate social life and detect attention in others can, in extreme cases, produce delusions and paranoia. At the other end of the spectrum, people with conditions such as autism spectrum disorder may have reduced sensitivity to gaze cues. Research has shown that the same brain areas involved in gaze detection, like the STS, may show less activity in individuals on the spectrum when they are exposed to direct gaze. This doesn't mean they're unaware of attention or incapable of social interaction, but the way they process gaze and social intent may follow a different neurological pathway. Interestingly, our perception of being watched isn't limited to waking life. Many people report sensations of being observed as they fall asleep or wake up. This often occurs during a transitional state known as hypnagogia, the phase between wakefulness and sleep. During this time, the brain can produce vivid, dreamlike hallucinations. You might hear voices, see shapes, or feel a presence in the room. These hallucinations are not dreams in the traditional sense, but rather fragments of sensory data blended with imagination. The sensation of being watched during hypnagogia is likely a result of your brain interpreting ambiguous signals from the environment while your body is immobilized and your consciousness is in flux. Sleep paralysis, a condition in which a person wakes up but is unable to move, often includes vivid hallucinations of someone standing nearby or watching. These hallucinations are terrifying but are thought to stem from the brain's confusion during the sleep-wake transition. Again, the brain fills in the blanks, and often the blank is filled with a watcher. Culturally, the fear of being watched has played a role in mythology, religion, and superstition for centuries. The concept of the evil eye, found in many cultures around the world, is based on the belief that a person can cause harm simply by looking at someone with envy or ill intent. While modern science doesn't support this notion, the fact that such a belief is so widespread underscores just how powerful the gaze is as a symbol of attention, power, and threat. In the modern world, this sensitivity to observation hasn't gone away. In fact, it's been amplified. Surveillance cameras, social media, facial recognition software, our sense of being watched is no longer just a biological illusion, it's part of everyday reality. We're now aware that our digital behaviors, our physical movements in public spaces, and even our facial expressions are being tracked and recorded. While this type of surveillance is vastly different from a person physically staring at you, the psychological effects are strikingly similar. Constant observation, whether real or perceived, can heighten stress, increase self-consciousness, and alter behavior in ways that echo our evolutionary past. So what can we conclude from all this? First, the feeling of being watched isn't just superstition or imagination. It's rooted in real, measurable brain functions. Our brains are wired to detect attention. That wiring is ancient, powerful, and for the most part, incredibly useful. Second, this sensation isn't always accurate. It's a prediction, a best guess by the brain when it encounters uncertainty. In some cases, it's spot on. In others, it's a false alarm. But it's always driven by a deep biological imperative. Stay alert, stay safe. And finally, our modern lives are full of cues, both real and artificial, that can trigger these ancient systems. Whether it's a stranger's glance, a blinking security camera, or a fleeting shadow in your peripheral vision, your brain is always working behind the scenes to keep you aware, even if it means occasionally sounding a false alarm. The next time you feel like someone's watching you, take a moment, look around, consider your surroundings. Then remember that your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, watching out for watchers. Thanks for watching. Stay aware, stay curious.